Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Experience Quantum Coherence for Vibrant Health and Wellness. Explore the forces of nature to accelerate deep healing and expanded consciousness. My name is Stephen Dyna. I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network, and I'm really excited to be with you here, getting to explore the frontiers of our health and our awakening with a really remarkable pioneer. Her name is Dr. Catherine Clinton. She's an ND, licensed naturopathic physician. She's taught for Shift before and is really going to illuminate how quantum coherence, which sounds kind of esoteric, but it actually is very practical in terms of our health and well-being. So, Catherine, thank you so much for joining us again.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I love talking about this, and I'm so excited to be sharing this information today.
Great. Well, we're excited to go further, and so let's begin. So we also want to mention up front, though, that we are going to have a brand new program with Catherine on quantum coherence for vibrant health and higher consciousness that we'll share more about towards the end of the hour. So, Catherine, I'd love to begin our time together with a little bit about your journey, particularly into this notion of quantum coherence and why that's such a seminal concept for our health, well-being, and evolution.
Yeah, that's a great place to start. So, when I was in naturopathic medical school, it was that second year of schooling, really long hours. It was that sort of initiation year. And the stress of all of that combined. And I ended up with two autoimmune diagnoses: Hashimoto thyroiditis, ulcerative colitis. I was diagnosed with Lyme disease, multiple GI infections, and it was really this domino effect where the stress of that year was just more than my body could handle. And I was working under a physician doing clinical rotations, but she was actually my physician, and she urged me to look at psychoneuroimmunology. And that's just a big word for how our thoughts and emotions impact our health. And that led me down ultimately to quantum biology. And I found early research in quantum biology from Greg Engel and Graham Fleming from the UC Berkeley. And they were doing incredible research about how a photon of light gets to the photoreactive center for photosynthesis to occur, right? The basis of life on Earth here. And they found incredible things. They found that this photon quantum tunnels, it doesn't have to go over an obstacle, it can go right through, it can take multiple paths at one time. But the thing that really, really got me excited and sort of changed my perspective on life and healing was this idea of quantum coherence. These researchers found that the proteins in this photosynthetic bacteria that they were researching vibrated in unison. They called it in the research quantum beat. And really, what they're talking about is this idea in quantum mechanics of quantum coherence, where two or more things act as one, like two people dancing the tango, multiple molecules of water forming a wave in the ocean. And it was this incredible example of not only do we have quantum mechanics, quantum phenomenon in a living system, which in and of itself is kind of mind blowing, but we have this intelligence. Those proteins were vibrating in unison, and that implies some intelligence there, that they knew what the fastest path was, and they kept that photon of light on the fastest path. And so it really opened up this whole different perspective and paradigm of what it means to be alive, what is guiding life, what is guiding consciousness, and this idea of the body as a symphony. And this was something that wasn't new to me. It was something we talked about in naturopathic medical school all the time, that we have to have all the organs working together, right? This kind of macro idea of the body as a symphony with the different organs as instruments playing this song. But once you start looking in quantum biology, you see that that goes all the way down to the molecules that are making up those tissues and those organs. And they share unique properties that allow for very fast very efficient communication that we just don't see in classical physics or in classical anatomy and biology. There's this language of frequency in the body, and it accompanies life. What we think of this chaotic, uh, messy, warm, wet body that quantum physicists forever said there's no way that quantum phenomenon can be happening. Well, that's the ideal backdrop. It is the noise of life that really allows for these very fast, very efficient, very elegant way of communicating in the body, like two tuning forks. You strike one, and the other one picks up that note, and they communicate even over long distances. The same thing is happening in our body.
Hmm. Was an intriguing description. And what is the experience of quantum coherence? So if you have, like, let's say your liver and your lungs becoming into some sort of coherent quantum coherence, what does that actually feel like?
Well, it's that ability for the body to work seamlessly. Right? It's the ability for health and communication and energy. So it's not just that the liver and the lungs are communicating efficiently, they're actually transferring information. And that's what we see with quantum coherence in the body at this quantum level is we see that the electrons are able to flow throughout the body and donate energy and information where needed. There's a way to look at the body where pain, inflammation, symptoms, disease states are a deficiency in electrical charge, a deficiency in electrons. And this idea of quantum coherence and the ability to move energy through the body in a very sophisticated way is really the foundation of health and a new understanding that brings us past the chemical mechanical model of health and how the body works, which of course there are chemicals at work, there are mechanics at work in our body, but it doesn't explain life and health, especially to the fullest. And that's where quantum biology and quantum coherence comes in. It adds a whole new, very elegant way to explain what's happening.
Hmm. Very cool. How does this relate to the all the work that's been done around the biofield?
That's a great question because the biofield can really be explained as an energetic field, right? We have this toroidal field that emanates out from the body. It leaves up through our head, it surrounds our body and enters back in this toroidal field. And the interesting thing about that is it's not just our entire body that has these subtle energy fields that the biofield represents, these subtle energy fields that are able to, again, transfer energy and information throughout the body and with the world around us. It's not just our entire body that has a biofield. Every organ has a biofield. I mean, we're very accustomed to thinking of EKG for the heart or an EEG of the brain. Those are assessing the electromagnetic biofield of the brain and the heart. Every cell has the same toroidal field, the same energetic field. And every atom and piece of the atom has this toroidal field as well. So it represents an energy field and spectrum where energy and information can be transferred almost instantaneously, right? The speed of light is quite fast, and this communication is much different than, let's say, we take a supplement, and we need to digest that, and it needs to diffuse across the tissue and wait for chemical action to occur. What we're talking about here with biofield communication is almost instantaneous, and that really expands our capacity to heal and communicate in the body.
Hmm. Can you share a little bit about what happens when there's a lack of quantum coherence and how that affects the biofield?
Oh, absolutely. A way to think of that is the flow of energy or the flow of water through a hose, right? And if we have a kink in the hose, that water is not going to be able to flow. The same thing can be said for the flow of energy in our biofield, in our body overall. And this is something that modern science, that quantum biology is starting to really explore and validate pieces of, but it's not new, right? This is something that ancient indigenous cultures have always spoke of, this flow of energy in the body that also mirrors a flow of energy in the world around us. So when there is an obstacle to that flow of energy, so many dysregulatory things can happen in the body, from fatigue, from inflammation, inflammation as sort of the basis for so many different chronic diseases that we see out there, autoimmune conditions, GI conditions, chronic disease, right? They all have their basis in inflammation. And when there's a lack of this flow in the body, it is really disrupting that flow of energy, but also the flow of communication. It's almost like this symphony that we talked about before. The violins start playing a different song, and everybody else says, "Hey, are we still playing that song? Wait, why are they playing?" And then this uh, chaos starts to ensue. It's much like that. If we don't have that coherence, that backdrop of smooth energy and information transfer in the body, then we can set ourselves up for a slew of things that can manifest as inflammation, as pain, as different disease states.
How does this all connect with other elements of your approach, which I know like light exposure, hydration, microbes? I'd love to sort of weave this in with a kind of a more holistic health paradigm.
Yeah, absolutely. I love doing that because every rabbit hole I go down, it seems to connect back to this idea of coherence. The water in our body takes on a different structure. And it's not just our body, water in living systems, whether we're talking about plants or animals, a cell, whether we're talking about live water, bodies of water out in nature, there are different organizations of that water, and we're used to talking about water as a solid or a gas or a liquid, but there are a couple different structures of liquid water, and they can actually pick up on this frequency information that we're talking about. They can store it and they can transmit it. So the water in our body is actually acting as an antenna for this frequency information, for this coherence. And we see that this coherence is, again, like two people dancing the tango. And we have evolved over millennia on this earth with one of the primary sources or signals being the rising and setting of the sun. And when we can be in coherence with the circadian rhythm in our environment, we see that it balances our hormonal status, it regulates our inflammatory state, the workings of our immune system, our metabolism, it regulates our neurotransmitters. There is coherence that we require as humans living on this planet because we are woven into this tapestry of nature. We can't separate ourselves from the rising and setting of the sun or the seasons or the temperatures or the water outside of us and within us. And when we do separate ourselves, that's when we start to see the seeds of illness start to grow. It's that connection, it's standing in that flow, in that coherence with all these things that really brings us true health and vitality.
Let's talk about some of the practices that help to bring coherence building practices. What are some of the things that you've really seen work to create that quantum coherence that then helps to create a healthy biofield, which then works downstream on all the other systems?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's so many of them, right? But let's talk about a couple of them. We just talked about circadian coherence. So when I wake up in the morning, within the first half an hour, I try to go outside and see that morning light. That morning light hits goes through my eye and hits that thin layer of cells in the back of the eye called the retina. And there are little cells in the retina called melanopsin receptors, and they pick up on the light in our environment. And when I get out in the first hour or two after sunrise, that light enters the eye and it is turned into an electrical signal that goes through my optic nerve into my brain, into the center of the brain and the master circadian clock there. It's called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, sort of a tongue twister. But that master circadian clock then sends a signal to all the other cells in the body. And this is one of the primary signals that our body runs on. It allows us, again, to have balance in our hormones, immune system, our metabolism, our inflammatory state, our neurotransmitters. And walking with that rhythm of the sun does the same thing over the course of the day, at sunset, in darkness. I think also another thing that really promotes coherence of the body is intentional practices such as heart-brain coherence, such as using sound, self-generated sound, mudras, using different geometric patterns in our body, in our movement that can allow for the energy flow that we talked about, the flow of electrons in the body. And I mean, we could spend hours talking about different practices to build that energy reserve in the body. And really, literally, from a quantum biological perspective, we're talking about electrons and negative charge. Our cells run on a negative electrical charge. And interestingly enough, the water that lines our cells that we were just talking about, that specialized water that has a different organization, it is negatively charged as well. So tending to the water inside of our body, tending to that negative electrical charge, tending to our circadian rhythm, tending to our intentional practices, whether that be meditation, whether that be chanting, mudra, movement, silence, stillness, right? Sort of the opposite of movement. All of these things are beautiful ways to cultivate the coherence in the body. And inside of our cells, we have mitochondria, these very, very small organelles that are found inside our cells in the body. And they're in charge of making ATP, the energy source of the body, but they also have a profound effect on coherence. So practices that help support mitochondria can also really have a profound impact on the state of coherence in the body.
Really fascinating insights, Catherine. Anything that you want to share more about how do we notice where in our body we might be out of quantum coherence? What are some of the symptoms or signals of that lack of coherence?
Yeah, that's a great question because some of it is very subtle, right? We're talking about energy transfer in the body, and it manifests in ways that we don't often necessarily tie to this idea of energy or charge or coherence in the body. But it can look like fatigue, it can look like a sense of overwhelm, burnout, and that creeping inflammation that happens to so many of us, where it starts out with some pain somewhere, and that builds into consistent symptoms that can build into disease states and chronic disease as well. All of these things have a root in a deficiency in electrical charge and a deficiency in coherence. And I think that that's just looking at the physical plane. We could look at the mental emotional plane too, and understand that So many of us are feeling overwhelmed emotionally, or sometimes we pick up on the surrounding emotion and feel that too strongly or not strongly enough. There's so many ways that this manifests in a mental emotional plane where we are feeling over emotional, or we can't get in touch with our emotions, or we can't still our mind and we can't focus. So there are many ways that a lack of coherence acts as an obstacle for that true, authentic being in our body and who we are and who we are meant to be. And a lack of coherence acts as an obstacle to that feeling. So I think there are mental, emotional, and physical manifestations of this that are quite common.
Great. Well, I think that's a great set of insights and context for some experiential time to really anchor this in our own bodies. I think it'd be great if you want to guide us in a process.
Absolutely. I was thinking of walking us through a quantum heart coherence exercise where we start with, again, this macro level of coherence, and we take it down to what we've been talking about is this quantum level flow of energy in the body and extend that out through the biofield and back in. So I'm ready whenever you are ready.
Let's do it.
Okay. Well, I invite everybody to find a comfortable spot. You can do this seated. You can lay down, maybe put some pillows under the knee. But we're going to start by closing our eyes so that we have a little bit of space, a little bit of stillness. And we're going to take a couple deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. As we continue to breathe deeply, we want to make sure that that exhale is longer than that inhale. And we're going to release any tension that we might have picked up during the day in our jaw, and our neck, our shoulders, releasing any tension in our back and our pelvic area. Just letting some of those holding patterns go. And as we continue to breathe deeply, we're going to focus on that heart center. In the very center of our chest, we can place a hand over our heart, maybe even two hands. And we're going to continue to breathe deeply, but we're going to breathe into this heart space. And just like our consciousness is a conductor of coherence, our heart is also a conductor of coherence. And we're going to breathe into that heart space, and we're going to fill it with an emotion of love, of gratitude, of awe, maybe a sense of contentment. This can be a memory, it can be a goal, it can be a daydream, it can be a practice that brings you that feeling. But rather than the thought of it, we're going to actually feel that feeling of love, that feeling of awe. And we're going to let it radiate out through that heart center. With each inhale, we're going to fill that heart center with that emotion. And we're going to start to see it as a light. And we're going to let that light radiate out from the chest, filling that abdomen, filling that chest, radiating down into the pelvis, down through those thighs and legs, down through our arms, radiating up through our neck, into our head. We're going to let that feeling and that light fill every cell. We're going to let that toroidal field of the smallest cells in our body, we're going to let it become enriched with this light, with this golden light, filling those cells all the way down to this flow of energy that we've been talking about, this flow of electrons that is constantly moving throughout the body. We're going to consciously add this light to that flow. We're going to allow it to be supported, held, and bolstered. That light fills every cell in our body, building that flow of energy. And we're going to let that expand into that toroidal field, expanding 6-10 feet from the body. We're going to let it expand into the field around us, intermingle with that all intelligent, all pervasive energy that surrounds us. So our intentional creation of this light and this energy mingles with the energy and light that's all around us. We're going to pull that up into our toroidal field, let it intermingle, and pull that back in to our sacrum, letting that flow extend and return, continuing that deep breath, continuing to build that light, that flow of energy and information. With every inhale, we're going to pull that energy in. And with every exhale, we're going to let go of what might not be serving us. Let that go through the top of our head into the field and pull that energy back into the sacrum. And release what is no longer serving us and pull that light back in, building that light in the body. This toroidal field of our entire body, of our organs, of the heart, of the cells, bathed in this beautiful golden light. I invite you to bring your focus back to your heart center, knowing that this flow of energy continues and is supported by the energy within us and all around us. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the world.
Great. Thank you for that. Really nourishing. Anything you want to say to build on that and how we work with the meditation moving forward?
Well, you are welcome to return to this meditation, to deepen this meditation. And I think that it is underappreciated how our conscious intention can really add to this flow of energy that we're talking about. I can get really in the minutia of the flow of electrons and a electron deficiency, and this is a lack of charge. But really, what we're talking about is the intention of attention. And this is something that we can use at any time, wherever we are at, to increase that flow of energy, to increase that vital flow of energy. And again, this is something that modern science is now really starting to explore, but it's been a part of our humanity since ancient indigenous cultures spoke of this flow of chi, of prana, and it doesn't require that we devote hours and hours in a day. This can be a practice that we do before a meal, on our commute to and from work. This can be a practice that we check in with time and time again to get that coherence, to get that flow.
So I'd love you to circle back and say a little bit more about how to integrate this with some other holistic health practices as well. Like what's a good comprehensive way to integrate quantum coherence into your plan?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that quantum coherence, the idea that these molecules in the body can transfer energy, it really comes down to looking at the body as a flow of energy. And how can we support that? Well, we can look at the structures that allow for that flow of energy. Our fascia. Our fascia is this body-wide network of connective tissue. And connective tissue is mostly collagen. And collagen is semiconductive. And when we move it, it's piezoelectric, just like a quartz crystal. If we compress a quartz crystal, put pressure, expose it to pressure, that quartz crystal creates an electrical current. And our fascia is also piezoelectric. This collagen web that extends throughout the body connects every single structure in the body. It is able to transfer energy and information and create an electrical charge. And how do we get it to do that? We move. We can dance. We can breathe deeply, right? There's movement in our breath. We can go for a walk. We can do yoga. We can gently stretch. All of these things help energize that fascial network that can transfer energy in the body. Our cell membranes, our DNA, all of these things act as bridges for conducting this electrical charge in the body. So anything that maintains them can help do that. And nutrition is a great way to do that. Movement is a great way to do that. Aligning again with our circadian rhythm, because our fascia is circadian driven, our membranes, our DNA, all of these things that we're talking about that act as highways for electrical conduction and the flow of energy and information in the body. If we support those bridges, then that flow of energy can be unobstructed, and it creates much more vitality in the body. So, supporting our fascia, our DNA, our cell membranes with nutrition, with movement, with grounding, going outside. Nature has a incredible capacity to hold our biology, to enrich our biology. Just placing our hands in the garden or our feet in the grass exposes us to this infinite sea of electrons that covers the surface of the earth, no matter where we are. And that is a wonderful way to help recharge and support this quantum coherence and energy transfer in the body.
That's really, I love the way you see things. And I love the whole thesis around the electrons and how important that is for overall health. I'd love for you to go a little deeper into that so people really understand why that's such a central component of a holistic program.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about mitochondria. So, I guess in the last 20 years, mitochondria have really taken a front seat into our health. There's a researcher out there called Douglas Wallace, and his colleagues and his team have found that a dip in mitochondrial function, a decrease in mitochondrial function, is associated with every modern disease out there. And our mitochondria are creating ATP, that energy source in the body. They create that in the electron transport chain inside of the mitochondria. And what we see in that chain are these proteins that allow for electrons to quantum tunnel down the chain. And this is a product of quantum coherence. It's a product of the water in the mitochondria. And the mitochondria are not just making ATP like factories, right? They are working as a collective. They are utilizing their own sense of coherence to create this energy in the body. And so the flow of electrons quite literally dictates that ATP production, that mitochondrial health and function, which is directly associated with our health, our vitality, and the decrease of it is associated with every modern disease out there. So there's a way to look at this capacity for our body to move electrons as this primary vital checkpoint in our health and longevity. And this is something that really some of the pioneers in science talked about. Albert St. Georgi is was an incredible researcher. He won the Nobel Prize for discovering vitamin C, and he talks about bioelectricity, exactly what we're talking about, this idea of bioelectrics in the body and the flow of electrons from structure to structure, from molecule to molecule, dictates health. And it's an incredible way to see the body. Again, that extends our current understanding of health being a chemical marker or a mechanical alignment, which, yes, is true, but it doesn't explain everything. And this idea that our health and vitality can be explained by whether electrons can flow from structure to structure, from food to our body, from air to our bloodstream. This is an incredibly exciting new way to see the body and to see health. And I think it offers us a new toolkit for how we can approach health and vitality in the body.
Very exciting. Well, I've been asking a lot of questions into different areas, but wonder if there's areas that you really wanted to share with people about quantum coherence today that you haven't gotten to share about yet.
Well, I think that one thing I wanted to share is that this can all sound very esoteric, right? That we're talking about energy flow and coherence, and it's sort of vague. I think it's exciting to understand that whether we're talking about food, whether we're talking about our fascia, whether we're talking about DNA, a cell membrane, whether we're talking about melanin in the body, our mitochondria, all of these things have the molecular structure of a benzene ring. And the benzene ring has electrons on it that can disassociate. And this is exactly what we're talking about. So, not only does it fit with this esoteric model that many ancient indigenous cultures had, but it is starting to be really explored and validated from the latest quantum biology and quantum physics science out there, that these pi electrons, they are called, they don't have to stay where that molecule is. they can flow throughout the molecule. They can go to other molecules and donate that energy and electricity. So while it does sound exactly like this flow of chi, the flow of prana, the energy in the meridian systems, it also is being defined by modern science in a very exciting way, that we now understand that this model of the atom with the nucleus and the proton in the middle and these little billiard balls of electrons flowing around in the atom really is starting to expand, so that those electrons aren't necessarily stuck in that atom model that we learned in school. They are able to go throughout the body, and we have this liquid crystalline matrix in the body that can act as a structure for this flow. And when it all is combined, you have this beautiful picture of some of our most ancestral knowledge being echoed and mirrored in some of the latest science. And I think it's really exciting for us to be at this point in humanity where we have that marriage, where there was always such a divide between those two aspects of spirit and science.
Mm.
And now we're starting to see the marriage. It's exciting.
It is exciting. I worked at the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and just the bridging of science and spirit, I think, is at the heart of how we create a much better health for ourselves and a health for our world. So
Yeah.
I want to spend some time now talking more explicitly about your upcoming course, since it's a remarkable way to do that bridging and experience the tangible benefits of increased health and well-being and through quantum coherence as a science and a practice. So we're very blessed that Dr. Catherine has agreed to teach this brand new course for Shift. It's called Quantum Coherence for Vibrant Health and Higher Consciousness, the key to accelerating deep healing, raising consciousness, and cultivating lasting vitality. You can find it at the URL quantumcoherenceforhealth.com, quantumcoherenceforhealth.com. It's a 7-week program. You don't have to have any specific background. It's really just open to whoever feels intuitively drawn. And Dr. Catherine, I'd love for you to share about some of your intentions for what people will come away with from this course, and then we can go through the modules and give a preview of what's coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited about this course. I think that the understanding of coherence and the understanding of how that ties into our consciousness, our ability to be our true authentic self, our intuition, how that can act as a conductor to that symphony of coherence in the body, and how that leads to a deeper sense of self, of safety, leading to a bigger foundation of health and wellness and vitality in the body. I think it's a really exciting way to approach health from this idea of this universal flow of energy, and how we are interwoven into this tapestry of energy flow throughout the world around us in the universe, and how this connecting to this flow holds the key to deeper consciousness, to deeper sense of self, intuition, to a sense of belonging that many of us might not have, as well as a physical sense of vitality and health.
Great. Well, so let's go through the modules and give a preview of what's coming. So module 1 is called Expand Your Understanding of Health Through the Quantum Biology of Consciousness.
I'm excited about that module and wanted to put it first because we have this idea that consciousness is the product of the neurons in the brain firing. And there's really exciting research out there that consciousness is a could be a product of our ability to connect to this universal field, to connect to a quantum field, to a universal intelligence. And that is really the foundation for this course. This ability to connect to that field, to connect to that flow, and how that can build resilience in the body. And so that's what we start out with. We start talking about some of the latest research with quantum consciousness and what that means as far as life, as far as our place, and in a very concrete way to our identity, our authenticity, our intuition, and how that can act as a conductor for health and coherence in the body.
Module 2, harness the subtle frequencies of energetic fields that create coherence for optimizing well-being.
Absolutely. So in module 2, we're going to be talking about the fields. And what do we mean by fields? We mean these unseen blueprints in the world that guide life. And that can be an electrical field, a magnetic field, that can be the biofield, a quantum field. How do those things impact our biology and how do we utilize them for better health? I think a lot of us don't realize that our cells communicate with electromagnetic fields. These fields guide our cell behavior, movement, differentiation, how a cell becomes an ear or an elbow. That's all in the field. And so in this module, we're going to talk about what that means, what the research says, and how we can support that relationship to the fields and build resilience to some of those fields that might not be ideal for our human biology.
Module 3, the power of flow, new ways to work with water to replenish and restore your health.
I love talking about water. So in module 3, we're going to be talking about these different phases of water, these different organizations of water, what that could mean for our health, our consciousness, what that can mean for our ability to intuit our relationship with the world around us. So many of us think of water as water, think of hydration as drinking more water from a glass. But there are so many more things that water holds. There's so many more things that affect our hydration levels. And there's so many beautiful aspects of water and our relationship with water and how it can deepen our consciousness, our intuition, our coherence, and our health.
Module 4, harness the power of light to facilitate coherence and accelerated healing.
Absolutely. We talked a little bit about circadian coherence, and this module is all about the different aspects of light, the rising and setting of the sun, and how we can utilize crucial times throughout the day to activate that coherence in the body, as well as other light, other forms of light, visible light, infrared light, um, all kinds of different spectrums of light and what they do as far as impacting the body for a health aspect, as well as consciousness and our ability to be our true authentic selves.
Module 5, create nervous system harmony through the rhythms of cerebrospinal fluid flow.
Yes, this is an exciting one. The cerebral spinal fluid flows from our sacrum up through our central canal. There's a canal in the middle of our spinal cord, and it bathes our brain, it enters our ventricles, and it's much more than people think. It has the capacity to communicate with the body in several different ways. And exploring the flow of cerebral spinal fluid and what's inside cerebral spinal fluid and what it allows for the flow of and communication of is an exciting area of quantum biology. And it doesn't just stop there. It really creates this web of communication in the body. And so we will be talking about that, ways to support that, ways to look at this incredible fluid really as a lineage of our ancestral knowledge. It's really fascinating. I'm excited for that one.
Great. Then module six, use resonance and coherence to connect to the ether and attune to greater harmonization with the living field.
In this module, we're going to be talking about some of the structures in the body that we mentioned, those liquid crystalline structures that can act as antenna, ways to support them, and the use of sound and how that can also support this relationship that we have with these unseen energies in the world around us.
And finally, module seven, explore the five elements to raise consciousness and deepen health.
Absolutely. So this is going to bring us full circle back, starting with consciousness and then really grounding in the elements in the world around us. So we're going to be talking about the five elements, how we can utilize a relationship with each one of those elements for a deeper sense of consciousness, of self, of awareness, and for a deeper sense of vitality and well-being.
Hmm. Well, what a unique and groundbreaking program. And I know that the potential benefits for people's health are really amazing as well. So, again, the whole course is laid out in detail at quantumcoherenceforhealth.com, quantumcoherenceforhealth.com. In addition to the 7 90-minute live sessions, which we just described with Dr. Catherine, you're going to have time to do interactive practices, also ask your questions live. You'll get recordings of every session, both video and audio, as well as word-for-word transcripts to work with, study, and highlight. There's weekly practices for home that'll really deepen your embodiment of these teachings and practices. There's also a community to support you and deepen your experience, as well as small group time to connect with other participants. On the page, you'll also see there's a number of extra bonuses that Dr. Catherine has added to this program that help enhance your journey. There's a PDF e-guide called Heart Coherence, the Bridge to Interconnected Health. You want to share more about that guide?
Yes, I think that's like a 19, 20-page guide that really walks through what is heart-brain coherence, how does that impact mitochondrial health, how does it connect us deeper within ourselves to our loved ones, our family, our community, and really the energetics of the planet that we live on. And it's an incredible deep dive, as well as some practical tools in there on how to deepen this heart coherence practice and sense of coherence in the body.
That's just one bonus, a great bonus. Then there's a second bonus called Support Your Cells, Fascial Energetic Practice. It's a video teaching from Dr. Catherine. You want to share more about that bonus?
Yeah, this is an exciting bonus because a lot of fascial exercises and practices kind of require standing, like an exercise program, right? This one is one you can do while seated, and I really wanted to make it really accessible to people because fascia is that conduction system of the body, and so we walk through a 20-minute practice of utilizing breath, sound, intention, and movement to energize this fascial network, this body wide quantum highway of the body.
And that's just another great bonus. And then there's one special bonus you get if you sign up by midnight tonight. This is actually called the Wonder of Water, Structured Water Masterclass. It's a video masterclass taught by Dr. Catherine. So you want to share more about the Wonder of Water?
Absolutely. In this video module, I walk through some of the history with water, some of the ancient indigenous practices and perspectives on water, some of the latest research on exclusion zone water, structured water, the quantum electrodynamics of water, how to make energized drinking water at home, how to build that water within our body. It's an incredible deep dive into this wonderful world of water.
Very cool extra bonus. Well, it's clearly going to be a fascinating program, very groundbreaking, really at the leading edge of health and science and consciousness. And we've kept the investment very accessible. It's just three payments of $128, or you can save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $349. The course is going to start September 29th and run Mondays at 4 Pacific, 7 Eastern. But even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts, and the community as well. So there's some great testimonials from Dr. Catherine's previous course at Shift. Thank you for the curiosity, bravery, and brilliance, blessing me with the counsel. So much confidence to approach trauma and anxiety with a softer heart. Really great testimonials from working with her. So you're in really good hands, and I think you're going to be very blessed if you move forward. So again, it's all at quantumcoherenceforhealth.com, quantumcoherenceforhealth.com. And the full name of the course is Quantum Coherence for Vibrant Health and Higher Consciousness, the key to accelerating deep healing, raising consciousness, and cultivating lasting vitality. So, Catherine, we're at the end of our time. It's really been a delight to be with you. Anything that you want still on your heart you want to share with folks who are considering doing the course with you?
Well, I'm really excited to be able to offer this expanded understanding of our health, our body, and really life in general. This is something that completely changed my understanding from holistic medicine to really a holistic flow of energy in this quantum coherence, quantum biology paradigm. And I'm really excited to be able to share that with people because I think it helps push the needle in a different trajectory. Conventional medicine has really centered on this chemical mechanical approach, and that's been wonderful, but it's also led to many dead ends. And so, as a naturopathic physician, I want to explore new understandings and get new tools for our health and vitality. And that's why I think courses like this really push the needle in the right trajectory, and I'm really excited to offer it.
Well, what a great program. And Dr. Catherine, you're really a delight and so knowledgeable. So we're really blessed to work with you. And if all of you, thank you for joining here today. And if you choose to move forward again, all the details are at quantumcoherenceforhealth.com. I encourage you to read it through, tune in. And if you get the sense to move forward today, then you're going to get that special bonus, which is the Wonder of Water, Structured Water Masterclass. So thank you so much. Many blessings.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you everybody for watching.